out there on the course?
Yeah, it's not the nicest vest to wear, but no, there's lots of charities out here today. It's not just the Royal Children's Hospital that we want to raise money for. Everyone out here is raising money for a good cause, and I think that's so important. Everybody's running for their own individual causes, but it's important that everybody raises lots of money because they're all going to wonderful causes.
It's great to see you here playing your part, Phil. All the very best and enjoy it.
Thank you. Well, there's loads of people here. There's going to get lots of support on the run, and I'm actually looking forward to the start. Apparently it's going to be a bit of a scrum, so get my boxing gloves ready.
All the best.
Thank you.
Well, that was a mix of sports, wasn't it? Phil Neville, the footballer, he's going to have a bit of a scrum, he's got his boxing gloves ready. Well, good luck with all of that. Interesting here, you can see Gemma Steele and Christelle Dornay have now caught Wanjiku, who's struggling after setting off so hard. Of course, she's now trying to respond as those two come up onto her shoulder. Pace has dropped both at the front with Dibaba as well. And all of a sudden, Wanjiku just puts her foot down a little bit again. So this is the race for second place here. And it's a good, or would be, a couple of good scalps for Gemma Steele. Gemma, so disappointed, as we were saying earlier on, not to run in London after all the hard work she put into preparing for that. She's one of the athletes who, British Athletics Endurance Programme are trying to develop and target, trying to push people, not push people, but to help them develop into events. Perhaps, Gemma was somebody who was recognised as having the potential at the marathon. I think it's right to do that.
Yeah, no, definitely we're trying to identify future talent and just give them that support to move through and hopefully achieve things at the marathon going forward over the next few years. And Gemma is somebody who I think has the potential to do that. Tirunesh Dibaba here looking really, really smooth as she moves away, but we could see that Gemma and Christelle Dornay had worked together, and now she's looking behind, and I think those K splits need a little bit of evening out there. It's not a 240 and a 338. I think it's more likely to be a 310 and a 308 split, which means that she is running a much more even pace, and you can see she's checking her watch though, so she's definitely now focusing on that time and trying to run that, but you can also see with the bushes on the side of the road that is very windy and breezy out there, and I think with that previous shot of Dornay and Gemma Steele running together there, you could see on their faces that they were struggling with that swirling wind, I think, which is not as they would expect. They're not getting as they turn around the wind at their backs. I think it is turning quite a bit today, which makes it difficult to run with. So 24:58 through 8 kilometres there, and she's still on a very, very solid pace here.
Well, if you obviously thought about her perhaps running 6 minutes for the last 2K, she could maybe pick up a little bit perhaps in the last kilometre, then she's still going to be under 31 minutes. So that's a good performance, or will be a really good performance from Dibaba. She's got it all to herself, obviously no threat from behind. They're slowing down. She's maintaining good pace and she looks strong. Be interesting to see how the rest of her summer develops, of course. Now that she's pushed herself into the world of marathon running, she'll be in demand on the world circuit. Other marathons, apart from London, will want to have her come and compete in their events, and that's always a temptation. So Tirunesh Dibaba at Old Trafford with almost a minute lead now. She's stretched it out and stretched it out. The others, as I said, are really slowing down, but there was never really going to be any question about who was going to win this race today. Everything being okay for Tirunesh Dibaba, just a question of how fast she's going to go. I guess in the men's race, so there is a question about who's going to win this, because I think genuinely Kipsang on his day, if Bekele's a little bit off, you'd always expect Bekele to have the upper hand over 10k on the road, but Kipsang is quick. Interesting though that Paula Kipsang's personal best for 10k on the roads came in a half marathon. When he ran his half marathon PB of under 59 minutes, he ran through in under 28 minutes through 10k. So isn't it interesting, his best 10k is in a half marathon?
Yes, I mean, certainly if he wants to try and win this race today ahead of Bekele, he needs to make it a hard run from quite a fair way out, I would think. Bekele can leave it to a sprint finish, and although Kipsang's quick, I don't think he would be able to be on the same level as Bekele as he comes into the closing 400 metres or so. So he wants to make a hard run and to use that marathon strength and that pace that he can sustain over a long distance, which I think is his forte. And at the moment, he doesn't seem too keen on doing that just yet. It's Meftar of France who's at the front, and you can see that the wind is definitely, I think, playing a bigger factor here in this men's race. They are happier just to sit in that group and just to settle into the race a little bit.
Yeah, the pace isn't super fast. That's maybe why it's not just why, but it's good to see Nick McCormack there. He had a disappointing start to his track season. A lot of our guys went over to America to run, trying to get times, and it was a great run by Andy Vernon, ran 13:11 for 5,000 meters. Nick had a really poor race, was outside 14 minutes, so he's trying to bounce back here with a good performance on the roads, and so far so good. He's in that lead group. Mefta has been the one pushing, I wouldn't say pushing the pace, it's not been very quick. Kipsang, Bakili, Makoka, good to see McCormack in there with Lam Decem as well. So these men, 6 of them, is pulling away from the rest, but race yet to really get going. Bakili happy to sit in the group for the time being. Meanwhile, ploughing a lone furrow, as I was going to say she often does. She does on the roads, often on the track. Dibaba will wait and time her effort perfectly. Wonder whether she's done that, will do that today. Do you know, I was watching a video a little while ago about her running action, Paula, you know, just describing it. She is not only blessed with great talent, she does have a lovely action as well, particularly running on the roads. I mean, she's a great track runner, but she's got a good economical action as well, and you could probably contrast that with the likes of Wanjiku there. And Dibaba, even when she's tired, still maintains good form, holds her balance well. She'll be tired at the moment, trying to surge in the last kilometre or so, but she's a lovely looking runner to watch.
Yes, she is very, very smooth, and you can see the relaxation that even now, and she's probably hurting a little bit, obviously needed to clear her throat a little bit as well, but her shoulders are very relaxed, and arm action is very neat and compact, and she's got a pretty quick leg turnover, like you say, even when she fatigues, but she just looks smooth without being too bouncy, which is one of the reasons that she probably transferred to the marathon really well. Gemma, you can contrast her style. I mean, obviously Wanjiku is a much busier style in her arms, and Gemma has that longer loping stride, which I think can transfer well to the marathon, but you just have to, it does put a little bit more of a pressure on the calf area, which was Gemma's weak area going in, why she had to withdraw from the London Marathon as well. But she's running well here. The pair of them have dropped Dorne, and so fighting it out here for that second place.
So good battle for second place. Dibaba now just turning things on a little bit. She's very familiar with this course. 400 meters to go. She's going to be outside the course record. Be interested to see if she can just dip under 31 minutes. The record is 30 minutes and 49 seconds. I think she's going to be really struggling to find 31 minutes as well. Be very close though. Gemma Steele a good minute behind, something approaching 32 minutes, but it's good to see Gemma forcing the pace now. Dorne is distant, about 50 meters behind these two, so Gemma sensing that she can perhaps take the second place ahead of Wanjiku, who's really struggling at the moment. Gemma just had a little glance over, sees the gap, and when you see a gap like that, gives you a real lift. Try and get your foot down a little bit more, but it's not over yet.
It's definitely not over yet. You can see Wanjiku there. I don't know whether it's intentionally, but just moving over to the far side of the road, so she's a little bit more out of the eye line of Gemma Steele. But Gemma has a faster finish than you think, so hopefully she's got a little bit left.
The clock ticking away for Tirnesh Dibaba. She won't be too bothered about that. It will be outside 31 minutes. No course record today. Wind perhaps playing a factor in that, but it's great to see one of the world's greatest athletes of all time, Tirnesh Dibaba, winning in Manchester again. No doubt about her class and the fact that Dibaba, whenever she steps on the roads and whenever she races over this 10-kilometer distance, she is pretty much unbeatable. And sometimes she hardly looks as though she's been out for nothing more than a Sunday morning stroll. But I think that was hard work for her out there today. And isn't it good to see Gemma Steele forging away from Wanjiku in the last 200-300 meters here. She'll turn this bend under the railway bridge. We'll be able to see the finish line and can try and just muster up a last little bit of effort to hold off the Kenyan, who's making another surge on the inside. You can't see her there, but she can sense the finish as well. She's about 15 meters behind on. I don't think she's going to close that. Slight uphill finish here. She's trying to get Wanjiku. The crowd are trying to raise Gemma Steele, who responds and responds really well. Can she hold her up? Gemma Steele trying to take second place, and she gets it. Well done, Gemma. Wanjiku in third place for Kenya. 32.10 the time for Gemma Steele, and then Christelle Dornay will take 4th place, and there's quite a big, well, there will be quite a big gap to the 5th placed athlete. We'll keep an eye on that. Well, business as usual for Tirunesh Dibaba. It was pretty much an even pace race for her. I think she set off, in fact Paul is showing me exactly even pace, 15:34 for the first 5 kilometres. I think the quickest part of the race was probably the first 3 kilometres, and then settled down after that and ran just a second slower for the second half of the race. This is Dulce Felix coming in for 5th place, another familiar figure to those of you who watch road races and our cross-country coverage over the years. One of Europe's best, but never any of them anywhere near Tirunesh Dibaba, of course. Well, that one followed the script, really. The interesting is, well, it's still, of course, of interest to see what happens here. The 3 best athletes have now broken away in the men's race. We said Nick McCormack was in that group of 6, and that was because they've been going fairly sedate. You see that 4th kilometre was 3 minutes and 1, and then the 6th kilometre 2:45, and that's why these 3 have pulled away. Mefted set the early pace, but he's dropped away now. It looks as though, I mean, if you've both of them, these guys have got marathons in their legs. I said right at the very beginning that Makoka, if they were a little bit off these two, I mean, Bekele would be happy just to win this, I'm sure, and he can win it in any way he likes, really, if it stays at this sort of pace. But, you know, if I was Makoka, I'd maybe think about putting my foot down a little bit, just seeing how tired they really are.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think Makoka is also, I was going to say, he's one of those guys who comes in with a great range coming into this race. He's run a 2:08 marathon and a 3:38 1500 metres, and then of course you think the likes of Mo Farah's run a 3:28 1500 metres and a 2:08, but certainly he would reckon probably that he could close pretty fast towards the end of this race, and would be thinking he could maybe not sit on Bekele, but certainly slot in there. So I think, looking at it, he's not aiming to win this race. The 2 guys out there trying to win this race are Kipsang and Bekele, and he's looking to come in 2nd or 3rd, I think, and struggling now a little bit, just moving in to try and get a little bit of shelter behind the first 2, but also just losing a little bit of ground on them.
And I think that's really because Kipsang, while that little group was together, was thinking, well, if it stays like this, there's only going to be one result, and he might as well have a go. If Makoka can't do it, which he obviously can't, then it's up to Kipsang. So Kipsang now just trying to force the issue a little bit with Bekele and try and test his fortitude, which of course, I suppose in recent years, you know, there was a time over the last couple of years where we were wondering whether Bekele was going to come back, whether or not he was going to find the motivation, which was a bit of a question mark with him. And I think the marathon, do you know what I think was the Great North Run last year? That race was such a turning point for Bekele. I'm not sure that we would have seen him move on in the way he has. It was against, of course, Mo and Haile Gebrselassie, great race, and he came out on top, and it seemed as though, you know, his camp all said the same thing. Suddenly it's the old Bekele back again. Now Kevin East's got his mojo back, if you like.
Absolutely, and I think he definitely went through a rough patch in that race, and he was able to gather himself to come through, and I think to surprise a few people and to give himself a lot of confidence going into his preparation for Paris. He also said that he'd been struggling over the last couple of years and actually been able to focus on the training. So the fact that he had the new target of the marathon to aim for did mean that he knuckled down and did some quality training building into Paris, and I think he has recovered well. You can see his mentality is to do as little work as possible until the closing stages, and immediately that Kipsang started to pick the pace up there, he was right in behind them, even though they've got the whole road to share between them, but he was literally in his slipstream as they were obviously in a windier part of the course, and now he's quite happy to pull alongside and just to let Kipsang know that yes, I'm still here, I'm still feeling good, but you're going to have to do the work at this stage. I'm just going to match you stride for stride.
Well, we're not going to see a course record today. 27:21, that's pretty swift, very swift round here. Mika Kogo back in 2007. And it's been a day not for records, but Nick McCormack's having a much better run. He's just trying to hang on to that group there. Mefta, who was the early, wanted to try and push things on at the early stages, except it wasn't that quick, to be fair. I think he was being allowed to lead more than anything else. But you know, it's a big year for British athletes, and Nick McCormack's one of those who's obviously was a decent 1500 metre runner, had to go at the 5,000 and has talked about maybe even the 10. But if, you know, when we've now got a bunch of guys starting to run well. I mentioned Andy Vernon, a great run from him. He also won the 10,000 metre trial. Chris Thompson flirting with a marathon, and it's good to see some of our more experienced guys, you know, really starting to find their feet almost, even in you know, I wouldn't say the latter part of their careers, but you know, it's good to see British distance running, and you know, Mo's had an impact on that, of course he has, but hopefully Nick can get a good performance here today and sort of refire his season. So there you can see they're 28 seconds behind the leaders, 22.56 through 8K, but these two locked together.
And definitely it's great to see these guys coming through and registering the good times and the good performances over 10,000 metres. And I think looking forward to the summer, looking to see what the marathon has done, if you want, to the likes of Mo and Chris Thompson in terms of the strength and how quickly they can recover that to coming back and running on the track. Bekele as well will be watching with interest to see, does he race on the track and how fast he can go? Can he go back to the kind of world record shape that he was in several years ago, or will he just now focus on the roads and just almost run for fun on the track in the summer?
So two world record holders side by side. Kipsang, the marathon man, Bekele stepping into his territory more recently. Kipsang now having a little bit go at Kenenisa Bekele's territory, the 10-kilometre distance here. The two of them running side by side, two of the best runners that the world has ever seen. And I like Kipsang. I like his sort of attitude. I think he did overcook it in the Olympics. I think it was there for him to win. Really, he was the best runner in the world at the time. He'd won the London Marathon earlier on that year. I think he just got a little bit excited on the day and ended up, of course, with Stephen Kiprotich taking the surprise win. And Kipsang, though, of course, bouncing back, and since then has had a great couple of years. And we saw the sort of shape he's in when he won London this year and that new course record. But he's going to have to do something if he's going to come up with a win here today. So Makoka's in third place, but this is the battle for fourth, fifth and sixth, and Nick McCormack doing well here. And McCormack doing his best to try and hang on to Mefta, who's decided to try and pull away. Lambert just starting to struggle a little bit now.
You can see now they are moving out of that quieter area onto the course and into the area where the crowds do start to build up and get better and better as they come towards Deansgate. And if we look out here, a lot of people have turned out and are waiting for friends and family to arrive across the finish line, but also to watch the finish of these elite races.
So there's our leaders, and of course bird's eye view for us, and they've got a ground view, if you like, or the others, I guess, go in the opposite direction, are getting a great view of this race, although a fleeting one, as they pass in the other direction, and the thousands of others will be following their progress throughout the rest of the programme. Don't forget, giving Kenenisa and Wilson Kipsang a cheer along the way, which is good to see. This well, you've got to fear for Wilson Kipsang when the closer gets to the finish, haven't you? You
have, and if you look at the expressions on their faces there, I think it was really interesting in that head-on shot, the focus and the determination and intent on the face of Kenenisa Bekele, and Wilson Kipsang is a lot more of a mask there. He's not really giving too much away, but I think if he is going to really make a strong move for this, it needs to be now, and for me, Kenenisa looks the far more comfortable of the two, and as though he's got this race under control.
About 600 metres to go. This is our third placed athlete, Stephen Makoka from South Africa. He's safe in third place. He's a fair distance ahead of the chasing group, which, as I said, includes Nick McCormack. But still to be decided at the front, the two of them, stride for stride, the tempo picking up all the time. Bekele, of course, blessed with blistering pace at the end of track races and indeed on the roads as well. And Kipsang I'm not even sure can even get him into top gear. I think Bekele will just gradually shift through the gears, and he's already doing that. He doesn't even really need to find his top sprinting speed. Kipsang, as good as he is, he's a marathon runner. He's a great half marathon runner as well. But with 400 metres to go, this is Kenenisa Bekele's territory. Just has a little glance behind and knows that he can finish this at his leisure. It's not going to be a quick time today. Still recovering from the marathon. He ran in Paris in early April. Kipsang, of course, ran in London. But it's great to see Kenenisa Bekele looking as good as this, looking as comfortable and relaxed as this. And well, his career now entering a whole new phase, if you like, and one which I think we can all look forward to. And I'm, for one, will be really intrigued to see whether or not he really does embrace the marathon distance. But for now, here in Manchester, it's going to be an emphatic win in the latter stages here for Kenenisa Bekele. Cheered on by this big crowd gathered here at Deansgate in the sunshine as he catches one or two of the stragglers from the women's elite race. But Kenenisa Bekele wins the Great Manchester Run, about 28-23. Wilson Kipsang, the world marathon record holder, has to settle for second place. Smiles from the two of them, a lot of camaraderie out there, and I don't think really you could ever argue that that was going to be the result, particularly as the pace wasn't that quick, Paula.
Absolutely, I don't think even Kipsang would have argued that. I mean, looking across there, he was just very happy to get that second place, and I don't think he ever really believed that he could win that race, and certainly didn't commit himself in a way that would have been necessary to challenge Kenenisa and to make it harder for him there today.
Well, Stephen Makoka managing to hang on to third place, but a good race for fourth here. Lamdesem just leading that, then Mefta and then McCormack, who normally has a bit of pace, but he's about 10 minutes behind these two. Lamdesem's just going to outkick Mefta, so he takes fourth place. Mefta will be fifth. Nick McCormack round about 29-20 in sixth place. Well, it'll be interesting to see what Kenenisa Bekele decides to do for the rest of the season. Hasn't really said about his plans to maybe perhaps, who knows, come back and run a couple of big track races this year. Of course, for the Ethiopians, no championships as such. Commonwealth Games, the Kenyans can aim at, so of course South Africa as well. Kipsang has said that if he gets selected, then he would love to run the Commonwealth Games, but the Kenyans not sure what they're going to do with the marathon team just yet. Makoka and Kipsang, though, not good enough to take on Bekele in a rather breezy finish here at Deansgate.
Still coming through at the start, though, not too far away in Portland Street, just about the junction of Portland Street and Oxford Street. And they come through in different waves, different coloured numbers, and so you can see all shapes and sizes, different types of running garb. But they set off onto this, as Steve was saying, fairly breezy course, but all with their own goals, all looking for a personal time or running for something very personal to them, but not too far away. The elite men continue to come through.
Well, we'll be following those races, but just to bring you the official result, Kenenisa Bekele winning in 28-23, 2:31 for the last kilometre. That's pretty quick indeed. No wonder Wilson Kipsang couldn't hang on to him. 5 seconds behind in second place. Makoka just about did enough to hang on to third, and the fast finishing Lamdesem took fourth. Nick McCormack, first of the British athletes to finish in sixth. A comfortable win in the women's race. Tirunesh Dibaba, really no question about whether or not she was going to win. It was really about how fast she'd run. It wasn't as quick as last year, but it was still pretty good nonetheless. 31.09 in the windy conditions. Gemma Steele, really good performance from her, just holding off the fast finishing Wanjiku of Kenya. 32.10 her time. And then a little further down, the other British athletes, Helen Clitheroe was in sixth place, just ahead of her teammate Susan Partridge, and then Tish Jones had a good run in ninth as well.
Yeah, well, as the commentators were mentioning there, really windy day. I've relocated to the finish, and it's a little bit like a wind tunnel. It must be 20 or 30 miles, blowing the runners just coming in front of me, some of the slower elite men, and of course, over the course of the next couple of hours, tens of thousands running by. But we're going to head back to the start now, and Phil Jones has found himself some breakfast TV presenters.
Well, I'm here with the best of breakfast, BBC Breakfast, Bill Turnbull and Louise Minchin. It's great to see you both. I know, Bill, you've been here before, been through it many times. A little bit warmer today than maybe we're used to.
Well, that's a good excuse for adding a minute or two to the time. If you don't think you're going to make your target, then say, well, it was hot, you know. I had to slow down. My wife's given me very firm instructions about that, so... I'm going to slow.
Take it easy today. That's the key, Louise. What about the atmosphere and the build-up around here? What do you think so far?
It's absolutely amazing. So many people out here to support us. They're going to enjoy it. It's a lovely sunny day. Everybody's slapping on the sun cream. Fantastic. I feel very nervous, though. It does make me feel scared. I don't know why. I'm not going to try and run very fast or anything, but I get nervous.
Well, I'm sure you've passed on some tips of old. And also just how warm and welcoming this crowd here is in Manchester.
Well, I love running here in Manchester because it's sort of tight city. Everybody comes together. You can feel it in the sort of way the streets are all together. It's lovely. And then the course itself is relatively flat. You run up to the Stadium of Light. It's a fantastic place to look at sight. And then you come back down the hill and you're roaring back in. And then there's the super finish there, the Dean's Gate, where there's just a massive crowd waiting to welcome you. It's really, really enjoyable.
It's going to be great fun.
He's almost making it sound like it's going to be fun.
She's going to beat me easily. Well, it's not a race anyway, as far as I'm concerned. It's not. You know,
I love that.
Not
She's going to beat me. It's not a race, but exactly.
Now, tell me who you're running for. That's important.
I'm running for Sense, a charity for deaf-blind people. Helps them a lot. Really, really good charity. I've been supporting them for a number of years, and they're fantastic. So, and lots of people have sponsored me. And when it's hard, and I'm sponsored, I think, right, that's another £5. Run faster. So that's what I'll be thinking. So thank you, everybody who sponsored me.
And Bill?
With the Christie NHS Trust, hugely important, treating thousands and thousands of people with cancer here in the Northwest. Wonderful charity, wonderful hospital. And I've lost too many friends to cancer not to do something about it as often as I can.
Wonderful causes. Enjoy the day, I'm sure you will.
I left my chip at home, so I'm very unprepared, but somebody's given me another one, and I've written my own name on here, so...
That chip says Mo Farah.
Go like Mo today, then. All the best.
Thanks you very much. Cheers, thank you.
Well, good luck to Louise and Bill. Did Bill say there, the Stadium of Light? Is he a closet Sunderland fan? Maybe he's let something slip there.
Or he's running to Lisbon.
He definitely said the Stadium of Light. Anyway, well done to those two. And, of course, they weren't on duty this morning. Steph McGovern, of course, who was, I think, presenting breakfast this morning. She's out running as well. So well done to all of our BBC colleagues. Of course, many of whom are based in Manchester these days. And great to see so many of them out there. And plenty of other celebs joining the thousands taking part.
Yeah, I'm on Celebrity Watch at the moment, and that interview with Bill and Louise Minchin was recorded a wee while ago, because Louise Minchin is cuffing Bill Turnbull at the moment. But some very, very fast actors in the UK, clearly, because we have some good times being set. In fact, Nicholas Woodman, who was in Doctors, went through 8K in sub 30 minutes, so he's just about finished now, ahead of William Ash, George Rainsford, also actors, very, very quick times. Kevin Kilban is clearly still got some pace in his legs, because he's gone through 8 kilometres in 33:30, which is very decent indeed. But of course, it's not about times. Well, it is secretly. It's not about times for those two chaps dressed as lions there. It's about having fun. It's about raising some money. Just about everybody will raise a lot and have a lot of fun throughout the next well, the next 20, 30, 40 minutes perhaps.
It's the world's biggest exercise class, this. I'm not sure they need much of a warm-up on a day like this, but it's good to see them building the enthusiasm as they stand waiting their turn to be released onto the streets of Manchester and Salford, of course. It's all planned and goes like clockwork. Different waves, you'll see different clocks at the finish line depending on when they set off, but as Andrew was saying earlier on, they all have their individual chips on their shoes which will give them their exact finishing time when they get home today, and go and check it all on various websites, etc. But so many people, of course, time themselves, have their watches going, maybe don't trust the technology, I don't know, or like Louise, forget their chip. Cardinal sin.
And this is all absolutely necessary, the warm-up zone, because you don't want to start a 10K cold. Get those muscles going with the Green Goddess or Mr. Motivator or the modern equivalent thereof, but still they continue to warm up and get ready to go. A little bit later, as we mentioned, they'll come through in different waves, so it's side to side, yeah, that's important as well.
The great thing is that those moves haven't changed in about 30 years.
Right, we're just in the middle of the warm-up. How are you feeling?
Fantastic, I can't wait to get started.
And who are you running for today?
I'm running for Diabetes UK.
Brilliant. Is this your first time running?
It is, it certainly is, yeah.
And how's the preparation gone?
Fantastic, I've been training with a trainer, so fingers crossed it's paid off.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Did you catch that?
So the elite women, the first to set foot on the road to Manchester this morning. Tens of thousands will follow later on. Well, the elite women, as you saw there, got underway.